Hello everyone, in this video I want to talk about Midnight Jazz Final Fantasy IX, the album recently released by Square Enix Music. I'm one of those Final Fantasy music nerds who still periodically checks the video game music database to see what Square Enix Music is going to release next. And full disclosure, Final Fantasy IX has never been one of my favorites. I started with 7 and 8 and I love those. And then 9 was just so different to me that it never really clicked, but I know it has its fans, and I love the music. Some of the best Final Fantasy music. Not Alone is one of my favorite Final Fantasy tracks ever, and I love Roses of May, I love A Place to Call Home, so I was excited to check this out. I know jazz can be an acquired taste for some, and I know vocals can be even more of an acquired taste, so I think your mileage is going to vary with this release, but there's a lot of good stuff on this album. First off, I will say that a lot of these tracks I'm not familiar with, and for this video I was comparing some of the originals and going back and forth listening to those and comparing it to these arrangements. And I will say that the first track, it might be my favorite on the whole album. It's called The Darkness of Eternity, arranged by Yuma Yamaguchi. And I was not familiar with this track. And I love this arrangement. It just feels so big and epic and grand and intense. And I went back and listened to the original, and there were a few comments comparing this one to One Winged Angel, saying that, oh, this is like FF9's version of One Winged Angel. And I can see that, and I really like this arrangement. I was a little confused at first because I felt that Over the Hill was the same as Melodies of Life, so I looked it up, and Over the Hill was actually the overworld theme of FF9, and that one is a fun, jazzy arrangement as well. Also, I think Midnight Jazz is kind of a weird misnomer for this album because there are some arrangements, like for example, the Roses of May arrangement, which is great. I believe it's just strings and vocals. I feel like this album is not purely jazz, although, as I've seen on the internet, people's definition of jazz is widely variable, but Midnight Jazz makes me think ding, 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 you know, and there's some of that on this album, but not all of them are like that. I already mentioned that Not Alone is one of my favorite Final Fantasy tracks ever. I don't like the arrangement on this album. It's just I think a jazz solo. I feel like a jazz solo could have been a smaller component of a bigger arrangement, but to just have a jazz solo as the whole track, it left me a little wanting, to be honest. There is a Not Alone jazz arrangement on Square Enix Jazz Presents Final Fantasy, something like that, and that one's fun. That's more along my tastes, but this one, I just didn't really like it all that much. There is an arrangement of A Place to Call Home. Something about this arrangement kind of bothers me. I don't know what it is, but something about the slow tempo. Maybe it'll grow on me, but for now it just feels a little slow, I guess. And then the album ends with Melodies of Life, which is great. And it is kind of like a jazz piano with some vocals on top, some harmonies, and it's a good arrangement.
In my dearest memories, I see you reaching out to me. Though you're gone, I still believe that you can
So I think your mileage may vary. I'm not sure if you'd want to buy this, but definitely check it out, especially if you are a Final Fantasy IX fan and if you are a big fan of the music. But I know that arrangements and remixes are not for everyone, but I say check it out for sure. That's all I got for this video. Thanks for watching, and say hi to your pets for me.